Okay, is this any better?
Who said that?
Jack.
Jack, we can hear you. It's a little muted.
All right, hold on.
All right, it looks like we're live.
Okay. Welcome to the Spruce Creek Property Owners Association Board of Directors meeting. We'll start off with a roll call and quorum of the board. And Jack, you want to try to do the roll call and quorum?
Yes, can you hear me now, Mr. President?
Yes, yes.
Everybody's good.
Okay, Jack Murray, Secretary, present.
Okay, Jim
John
Clark,
Ferguson.
President, is present.
John Ferguson, Vice President, here.
Jay Jabbour, treasurer here.
Joe Friend, director here.
Yeah, I'm here too.
And Scott Seagrave. We don't have a block for Joe, but I guess he is listening. So,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you, Joe.
Okay.
We just don't have any indication that you're with us on the screen.
Oh, I'm on through my iPad, but the video isn't
Okay, well,
active.
if you're on, you're on.
Yeah.
And now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag in Jay's office there. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
and to the republic
for which
for which it
it stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. Now I have our legal statement. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded for our website via YouTube. And state law provides that members must have the right to speak at board meetings with reference to agenda items. Therefore, if you wish to speak to this an agenda item, please call the POA office at 386-760-5884. And you'll be placed on the list for a callback during the meeting. I'll confirm the proof of meeting notice with General Manager.
Yes, it has been posted.
Okay. And the first item of business is the approval of the prior minutes.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the September 13, 2021 Board of Directors minutes as written.
It's been moved. Do I have a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second it.
Okay. Had a couple of seconds there. That's fine. It's been moved and seconded to approve the September 13th, 2021 regular board meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Now we'll get into reports. I sent everyone out a copy of and let me preface this a little bit with why this is happening. I sent everyone out a copy of a proposed retainer for Daniel Webster. And as we're looking at, I'm sure everyone is aware if they've driven anywhere, our part of Florida is becoming literally overrun with new residents and people everywhere and buildings happening everywhere. And it becomes more and more important, in my opinion, to protect the nature of the Spruce Creek fly-in for the ones who built it, the Property Owners Association. Therefore, as we're seeing, we have evidence online and via mail of entities that wish to apparently promote their endeavors, commercial endeavors. I propose that we retain Daniel J. Webster, PA, to represent the Spruce Creek POA in the flight school and flight club prohibition, or as otherwise agreed. That retainer is a very reasonable $2,500, which would just handle would be drawn against if he was called to represent us in to protect our CNRs and other dealings. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions. But I want a poll of the board to retain support for this before I enact this.
Mr. President, if you'll allow me, I just want the record to be clear. This is Jack Murray, Secretary of the POA, that I don't believe the bylaws require board approval for the president to retain counsel on a significant issue. I certainly understand and support your polling of the board. I just want the record to be clear that it's not beyond your authority to do so as you see fit with the general manager under the conditions that have been addressed. But I fully support the concept of retaining Mr. Webb.
So this is Joe. Don't we already have an attorney on retainer for the
Well, Joe-
POA?
Well, Joe, and I will address that certainly. We have Brooks Casey, which is an attorney that focuses, from what I can understand, on property owners association, homeowners associations law. And my concern with that is that as we have chased other items and spent a great deal more monies than $2,500 pursuing things like drainage easements and other activities, that if we were going to do something that required an attorney specifically focused on pilot and property owner rights for Spruce Creek residents, there is no one better suited for that role than Dan Webster. He has represented property owners here before successfully, always successfully. And no one is more dialed into our structure and the rights that we are trying to protect for property owners. You know, if you want an appendix out, don't go to a dentist. And that's why.
So what have the would-be defendants done to warrant this action?
Well, this action is just in response to an ongoing marketing and efforts. And we've been provided nothing that would indicate that there is any change of direction in the activity that is marketed on the web. Even after a cease and desist letter was sent out. I have a letter of response here dated yesterday. And it talks a lot about safety, but it doesn't talk about property owner association rights or the restrictions on outside individuals gaining access to the community through the membership of a flying club. It doesn't address any of that.
Well, I'm reading the response to the cease and desist letter, and it says, upon reading the letter, it was clear that our intentions were misunderstood and that the board was misinformed about Spruce Creek Aviators' goals and support services. Has that misunderstanding been neutralized?
No.
Has anything been done to violate our rules yet?
Mr. President, I don't think that we should be
Where are we going with this?
discussing legal issues and conclusions or objections on this record when we're about to retain counsel in a legal matter. Mr. Friend, if he took the time to look at the website that
I did.
us have, it's clear that they're selling membership rights to the world, not just to Spruce Creek people at a profit, and with unlimited number of members. These issues have been addressed in a previous resolution adopted by this board in a 6-1 vote. And if counsel is going to be retained, we should not be discussing litigation issues on the record.
Yeah, I
We
don't
shouldn't be
see,
discussing retaining counsel on the record if we can't question the reasons behind it.
Well, you well know.
I mean, it's going to happen anyway, so it might as well just happen. I mean,
Happened in an executive session with counsel, but you wouldn't prepare your clients on the record before the community. Litigation is pending. You know that better than anybody.
no, I don't, because I'm being asked to, in a poll, that according to you is only a poll and isn't required, to consent to the hiring of an attorney for reasons that are not entirely clear and necessary to me. But, you know, if we have an executive session to discuss it, that's fine, but that's kind of the horse after the cart. I don't know exactly what it would be, I mean, whatever the metaphor.
What I
would be.
said executive session would be to discuss the legal issues and the alleged defenses that they may purport to have. We should not be discussing legal issues and defenses.
I want to discuss why it's a legal issue and why we're not trying to talk about what they're doing and kind of steer them into a way that would be acceptable.
Well, you had an
It seems to me they're
Wait a minute, Joe. Scott, you had an opportunity to speak with them a month ago, I understand. And what happened with that? Nothing.
Oh, I've spoke with them more than once, Jack. I'm willing to listen to anybody.
The board doesn't know of your conversations with them, and you've kept that private to yourself. So then again, now we have other conflicts that we have to deal with. So we have a board member discussing with the people, you know, violations of CNRs that we have and resolutions we adopted. So we have to get council involved. Let council run the show, Scott. We should not be discussing these issues in open forum.
Couldn't disagree any further. Doesn't matter because again, it's obviously going to happen. So doesn't matter.
Anyone else? All right. Well, I don't know.
Jim, maybe one thing needs to be said to anybody that's watching on the feed. Our job is to protect our property owners' interest in this community. And that needs to be the number one focus on this issue.
And
Exactly.
That is why. Why do you shake your head, Scott? What?
That doesn't mean anything. I mean,
Well,
the people that are trying to do this are property owners too, and we don't know
Right.
what they're trying to do that's in contravention.
But
They're trying
I'm
Google it.
looking at the website where we have memberships for sale that
Well,
allow
memberships in what? To do what?
Spruce Creek Aviators Association, the $150 a month
Right.
membership in brief lists all of the benefits of being a captain member of Spruce Creek Aviators, access to act as the instructor in Spruce Creek Aviators aircraft.
Right?
which would probably be leased.
Yeah, and they've also submitted a request to contact us if you have any interest in leasing your aircraft. Now, that, Scott, that sounds like a commercial endeavor to me. If you're charging a monthly fee to have access to the airport that we are paying fees for, that's in violation of what we're about. Of what
I guess I just have a different viewpoint. I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but it seems like conversation, talking to people is what resolves issues, not lawyering up. And that's a lawyer saying that. So what's that tell you? But
Well-
once again, it doesn't matter.
Well,
Yeah, but Scott, they've put this out on the web without talking to us. They
Right,
have.
and now they've reached out and we refuse to talk back. So let's talk to them.
Okay, hang on. They've got a statement on their website that says there will be non-members, non-POA members at this club flying out of our airport.
Mhm.
That, in my view, violates the interests of our, and them also, as a property owner at this community.
We already have that going on. We have people here who are instructors who have other people coming in for testing. Are we going to disallow that?
Yeah, we've had this discussion and the vote on our resolution back in June. This membership plan that's on the web that the president just spoke of is designed to solicit in unlimited number of members to this flying club to the benefit of the two owners of the club who will make profit. You could have 50, 100, 200, there's no limitation on the members. And then they would enjoy the use of our airport. And you as the former airport manager should well understand the dangers and risks of selling that type of plan and how it violates our covenants and restrictions. And that's what the president's trying to address. And if they have
trying
a
to keep
plan,
our private airport private.
Exactly. I don't understand why everybody's having such a hard time understanding that we're a private gated community with a runway. We're 1,600 individual pilots operating under Part 91. But this is a community. It's not. We're not an airport. We're a private community that just happens to have a runway.
With a lot of commercial operation going on here.
Well, that's the bad part of it, is we got that commercial operation.
There are commercial operations that are set forth and permitted in our declarations and bylaws. And a flying club and flight schools are not part of that permitted use. Everybody on this board should know that, and if they don't, shame on them.
What about the other training that's going on in here all the time that we're actually celebrating as a community?
Well, you might be celebrating it, Scott, but there are a lot of community members who are appalled by it.
Well, hey, I mean, we as a board, when it's published in the Update magazine, how brilliant of a job the training is that's going on in here.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to because I've
And then you haven't read the Update
I read
magazine.
the Update.
I have, Scott, and anybody can put anything they want to in that Update magazine. Anybody can print anything they want to. Just
Well, not anybody, apparently.
well.
Well, so the issue is, this issue is presented to us by these folks who have opened up and are running or attempting to run in spite of the president's directive to the contrary. And we have to, Scott, you well know, if you want to talk to someone, you got to stop the illegal activity and come and talk. You don't continue the illegal activity and thumb your nose at the POA and have students from outside with outside instructors running around our airport. It's ridiculous. If you
I've got, just so the board's aware, I've got Nick Schultz. He's on the line holding if you want to talk with him and Bob Wood.
now, we shouldn't even be having this discussion, but gentlemen, if you fly into Ocean Reef, which is a private gated community with a private airport, as soon as your plane lands, if you're not based there, you are approached by security. You have to explain why you're there. You have to register to stay overnight or you're asked to depart. And they have a successful community private airport for years and years with very few incidents. And so this issue has been creeping up and creeping up. And I think the president's correct. It's time to address it, and we'll address it in the best way possible with the assistance of eloquent counsel to guide the board. That's how it should be done.
Not inappropriate for me as president of the board to request Daniel Webster be put on retainer for this activity. Specifically, the matter is at hand are Spruce Creek POA flight schools and flight club prohibitions, or as otherwise agreed on other matters involving, I'm sure, the airport and the usage of the airport. And now is a critical time on this, simply because of what's going on around us and what's going on and wanting to be continued and expanded on our airport. And Scott, if this means that we have to shut down some things that are happening now, then so be it. But if you're a flight instructor operating your aircraft and you're a POA member, you can flight instruct. That's not the question.
Inside
Has there
or
been a
outside?
discussion? Has there been a discussion with the principals to change their business plan definition to be evident that it's compliant with our rules?
Well, there will be.
Do we need a lawyer to do that?
Apparently.
Have you guys read this letter that came out October 10th today from Bob Work? Did y'all
Yes.
read that?
Yeah,
Everybody
got it. I got it in front of me.
Okay, good deal. Well, I mean,
John brings up an interesting point. The letter is in response to the POA cease and desist. And the letter is not a mea culpa or, oh, we will stop and talk, or we would like to meet with you and we'll cease operations. The letter is, we want to explain to you why we're right and you're wrong. That's basically the tone of the letter. And so I don't think we need to discuss anymore. The president is proposing to let council go into these discussions and not board members with microscopic, understanding of the CNRs in our bylaw.
and this, but he shows in the letter too that it's a not for profit. How can that be? How can that be a not for profit business here?
Well, without asking them, we can't get the answer, can we?
Maybe they're going to donate all the money, John, to the Spruce Creek community. And they'll
To the
give
community.
residents pro bono. That's-
I think we should hear from the proposed individuals.
Of course you would say that, but we need to hear from them and discuss it with proper legal counsel. And the president is so asked for that. And
I think there's too much lawyering going on.
Well, I'm afraid that's the nature of the world we're in. You can discuss with the greatest intentions, but as we've seen, as I've sat for 5 and 6 hours over in the Volusia County courthouse, because we've got people that have built things contrary to what was presented to our architectural review committees, and say, well, I thought I'd do it and ask forgiveness later. I'm done with that. And no, I can't legally handle this. And I don't think it's obvious that the board as a group can't legally take this on. And so I requested a poll of the board, if you will, to retain Daniel Webster as the attorney of choice regarding these issues.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Yes.
And I know the $2,500, that's a drop in the hat, so that it's kind of premature in a way to answer this. And I will say, on one hand, it's a brilliant move to hire him for a retainer, because that's a cheap way to conflict him out of being on the other side against us in any of these. Having said that, is the intent to focus your intent, because you're the one doing this, to focus him on this particular example or this issue in totality?
This issue in totality is the
Okay.
only way we can do this. That's the bottom line. That's the only way we can do this. And yes, I agree, Scott, there has been creep and abuse of our CNRs and resolutions. I know that. And I'm concerned, left unchecked, about where I live, honestly. I found this place. I love this place. And the property owners, and again, property owners can instruct in their aircraft we've got outlines as to how they instruct here. They go elsewhere for the solo flights. They're supposed to, and granted, and I know that it's that
Where you live, you do know.
it's being abused. I know it is. But left unchecked, this isn't going to be the place 10 years from now that it is now. And
Well, I mean, again, one thing is I will feel better, not good, less bad, maybe better, having your assurance that this is to be equally applied and it's not a
Absolutely.
singling out, but it's across the board.
Absolutely equally applied.
Because I think that's all people can ask for, is to be dealt with fairly and equally.
And absolutely, no, there is no, it's going to upset some folks, and I appreciate that. But in the end, we've got to decide what our community is.
What kind of folks will be upset that are not included in the current conversation?
Oh, individual.
Upset if we do or upset if we don't?
If we do.
Upset if we allow this.
No. Upset if you go forward with the prohibition as you intend.
No, the prohibition exists.
What is this you thing?
Well,
The prohibition exists in our
Then what?
documents.
Okay.
Problem is, we got no teeth. Don't do that. Stop doing
But
that.
you indicated there are people that are performing outside the bounds of the
Yes.
rules as they currently exist. So you're going to hit them too.
Equal distribution,
That's
equal
what we
application of the law.
asked him.
And that's my question. Who is operating now outside the bounds that you're going to hit?
Well, you're
I'm
not
not
going to go
one-
ahead and start naming names right
We
now.
don't
That would,
know.
I got to agree with Jack
We
on
don't
that one.
do
That would
that.
be-
Oh, no. No, but it's time to pony up and recognize the reality of the world that Florida is becoming. And I don't want people selling off access to our runway. Period.
Joe, friend, you have the list of the pilots at Spruce Creek. We have 1,500, approximately 1,600
No.
residents. What percentage of them are pilots?
About 450.
So you have 1,200 non-resident pilots that we also represent and speak for. 1,200 residents who want to live here and not have.
Resident non-pilots.
Yeah,
Yes,
resident.
sorry,
non-
yeah, resident non-pilot, who want to enjoy the safety of their community without an outside student pilot having an accident on or about the runway on our property, and not checking this and establishing enforcement is someday going to lead to something we all know can happen and has happened before. So we would expect, Joe, that you would join us as the board in protecting the rights of all Spruce Creek property owners, whether they be pilots or non-pilots.
Well, I did do that. I voted for the recent rule change that we enacted just a couple months ago. I wholly endorse that.
Mhm.
The question I have is, these guys haven't done anything yet. We haven't talked to them about what they will do once they talk to us about having a common view on what should be done here. I think getting a lawyer involved is premature.
Well, now let's recognize, Joe, this is a retainer agreement for any need of an attorney regarding flight schools or flight clubs. This is a retainer agreement. This isn't calling him to battle. But if we need an attorney, and thank you.
Need expertise in this. is
This
what we-
cost, this is an insurance. We wouldn't question spending $2,500 on an insurance policy that could provide us the kind of protection that this can provide us.
You could spend the $2,500 at any future time when you actually think you need it.
Joe, it's obvious for reasons we don't understand that you are opposed to the concept of protecting the POA or
That's totally wrong, Jack.
allowing the
Don't-
POA to have legal advice on a critical issue before the board. You would prefer we do it without that. Okay, that's your right. You could so poll.
You're misquoting me, misunderstanding me.
Well, that's easy.
Okay.
Well, I've had attorneys on retainer through my banking and business life all the time, and many of which I didn't use, but I had to have the option. And I wanted the attorney that I wanted. So I had retainers out on attorneys. That is just good business practice. And I propose that we invest this $2,500 as a retainer, recognizing that the law firm would be at $350 per hour for attorney time. And if we make a few calls, we'll be cutting into that.
And I'm going to go looking at Alan when I make this next statement too, but to Jim's point, if you start getting into this in any kind of significance, you're going to need the funding for that as well.
Mhm.
And that's not just, obviously, a blank check. So there would have to be some discussions and some strategies and people understanding. But again, that's theoretically a hypothetical.
That's a down the road discussion.
Right. And there was no reaction from Alan, so I'm kind of disappointed by that.
Well, there's no, Mr. President, you're not formally making a motion. I mean, if it were a motion, I would second the motion if you want to turn it into a motion. So
We don't need-
there's no dispute. I suppose you have the right to do that.
Well, Scott, would you prefer that I make a motion to authorize this?
No, because honestly, for another reason, I would not vote on it either way, because I don't want motions dropped on me the last minute before a meeting.
Okay.
We're having the conversation now, we're discussing it. It's really, the way I look at it, this is informative. You're letting us know what you want to do, what you're going to do, what you're within your authority to do.
All right.
And we're having a back and forth to understand it. So I think that's all appropriate. If it goes to a motion, I think that's a different deal from my
All
perspective.
right. Well, since it's not going to be moved, I would take a poll of the board at this time. Jay, would you support me signing this?
I support it.
Okay. John,
I support it.
Scott, you said you're going to abstain.
I said if you were making a motion, I'd abstain. I'm struggling with this mightily, but just for the fact, again, of locking council up for future references for minimal investment, I think it probably makes sense to do. Had this happened a month ago, I'd feel a whole lot better about it than I do with it coming up right now, if we're to be honest about it. So,
Well, it takes time to make these things happen, I'm afraid. And so I'm not reading one way or the other on that. So Jack,
I fully support your efforts, Mr. President.
okay. Joe,
Well, if I had an opportunity to talk with Nick and Mr. Wood,
work.
pardon me?
Joe,
Good
you
for
support
work.
it or not? The president's just asking whether you support it or not.
At this time, no.
Okay,
No support.
Not enough conversation has taken place from my perspective.
okay. Well, I'm comfortable with poll of this group that I am going to sign this agreement and direct Maurice to send the retainer check to Daniel J. Webster, PA. And with that, we will move forward. John Ferguson, Vice President, report your report.
What we've got is the MOU, came back up again. Stu Morris, I think, is listening right now. They reworded this is the MOU for that airport that Gus is doing, 3FA7. Let me kill this thing. Which we're going to discuss in a few minutes, not right now. So that's, and we talked about the fuel farm, where we know where that's at right now. So that's all I've got.
Okay. Jack, Secretary.
I don't have any report except to query how this MOU issue got on our agenda on the day of the meeting. When we voted 7-0 against this MOU several meetings ago, but that was more of an inquiry to the manager.
Yeah.
It got changed, Jack. The wording changed. So like I said, I think Stu's in on this listening, but they reworded. It changed.
That's not my issue, John. The issue is we have procedures as to how things get on the agenda the Friday before the meeting. And under Robert's rules and the bylaws, agenda issues, unless it's an emergency, are usually not made the day of the meeting, because it just gives everybody a chance to take a look at it and understand it and maybe communicate with AAC. AAC doesn't have the authority to write contracts. It only gives it, recommendations to the board. So anyway, I guess we'll discuss it later.
My understanding was that AAC requested it, and Maurice, you speak up, the general manager told them either the president or vice president had to approve it for the agenda. Am I incorrect on that?
He's correct, and I did approve it.
See, so that's okay. That wasn't just the AAC putting it on, Jack.
No, they changed it and wanted it to be brought back up to see if this would change the whole thing, which I evidently it won't, but we still got it on the agenda. So
Okay. Treasurer, Jay. Oh,
Yes, I have Alan here to discuss next year's budget.
okay. Who's up?
Oh, that would be me.
Do we want to go that now or later?
Oh, just, we have later we have an unfinished business. We have, yeah, it's a new business later, so we'll do that later.
Okay.
That'll be coming up. And General Manager Maurice.
Yeah, I hope everybody's had a chance to take a look at the manager's report. There's 4 legal things going on right now in various stages that don't require immediate attention just yet, but on several fronts they are moving forward. I want to thank the Budget and Finance Committee, our Treasurer Jay Jabbour, all the various committees that helped out putting this 2022 proposed budget together that we'll be looking at. As you know, putting together a budget can be a little challenging, and we crossed the hurdle and hope the board's happy with it. And we'll be discussing that here later. The 2022 annual meeting and election scheduled for Thursday, February 3rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. The venue I've left open for the time being, and we can figure out whether to have it via Zoom or at the Spruce Creek Country Club. So that's something we'll hammer out here in the next month or so.
Maurice, did you say 2022?
Yeah,
The meeting is in 2022?
correct. February 3rd, the annual meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I missed the February. I thought you said November, but
Oh, no, sorry about that. I don't know how well my speaker works, so hopefully.
Maurice, could you let the folks know what, if any, is the timetable for cutoff of nominees?
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Actually, we have two director positions coming open, and one being yours, Jack Murray, and then Joe Friend. Those are the two board members' terms that are expiring. Joe Friend has the option to run for another term. And any other member in good standing that's interested in joining the board can certainly do so. What you can do is contact the office, POA office, for a candidate intent form, and I'll sit down with you, go over what you need to fill out, as well as providing a resume, and all that needs to be submitted back to the POA office by December 6, 2021. That's the cutoff date to get on the ballot. And one other thing that was on my management report was I did send a cease and desist letter to Spruce Creek Aviators. I know we've just discussed that in great detail. Nick Schultz and Bob Wood asked if they could speak with the board about this. I do have them on the line right now if you want to discuss it with them, or if you want to wait until open forum, it's up to you.
I don't think we're going to have discussion. I think that they're allowed as residents to have 3 minutes under open forum. Is that correct?
Mr. President, what do you think?
Well, I'm sorry, I had a call come through. They certainly, as POA members, because I'm all about POA members speaking if they choose to speak. I just am not sure if it should be in the open forum section. Since we do not have an agenda item to discuss that at this time, I would suggest it would be an open forum. So with that, we'll talk about the unfinished business of the Flying Four Ranch 3FA7. This is the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, that is back in front of the board. And I'll say this up front, I don't understand. The best information I can get on this is that the Department of Transportation requires a memorandum of understanding for this airport to be charted, or because of its proximity to Spruce Creek.
Well, Maurice, you have Stu on the line?
Yeah, I can bring Stu in if you'd like.
Would it be
Yeah.
appropriate, Jim, to bring Stu
Oh,
in?
yeah, let's get these questions answered.
All right, I'm bringing Stu on. He's coming in via the Zoom and telephone.
And for the record, this is
Hello?
Stuart Morris, who's the chairman of the AAC committee of Spruce Creek.
Yeah, Stu Morse, chairman of the AAC Airport Authority Committee.
Are you there, Stu?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you
Stu,
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I had a question, if you would enlighten us on this. This memorandum of understanding, the requirement of this memorandum is, as I understood it, is so that the Flying Four Ranch will be put on the charts. And this was a Department of Transportation requirement. And
You're partially right. It's a Florida, it's already on the charts for the FAA. The FAA has already approved it. Florida DOT requires, when there is another airport within 3 miles of an existing airport, such as Advent Health we just did last month, and this Flying Four Ranch, that they require either a letter of agreement or an MOU. I said, a letter of agreement being FAA, that's a binding document. A memorandum of understanding, while it's somewhat binding, it's not a legal document in the sense of a letter of agreement. So I was asked to change the MOU to state, and if you have the copy of it in front of you, the purpose of this MOU is to acknowledge the existence of the Flying Four Ranch, 2.8 miles southwest of Spruce Creek. That's it.
And what does that do for Spruce Creek property owners?
It gives us a safety issue. It gives us, when somebody comes up on our frequency on 12272 and says, hey, I'm inbound to the Flying Four Ranch, people are going to know what it's about. I do have a safety meeting in 2 days. I was going to discuss all this in the safety meeting, which is going to be one of my questions when you guys are done voting. It's a safety issue is what it is. It's all it is. And all we're doing is acknowledging that they're there. Their patterns don't overlap with our patterns. That's all it is.
Stu, this is Jack Murray. You said that you were approached to amend the MOU. Who asked you to do that?
It was when you guys passed the MOU with Advent Health. I was asked to relook at the new MOU by the owner and see if we can come up with something. I ran it by some FAA people.
You're talking about our.
Can I finish, please?
I'm just trying to get an answer.
Okay. I ran it by an FAA guy who wrote letters of agreement and MOUs. He approved it. I sent it to Shane McLaughlin. Shane asked me if I was comfortable with the wording of what I put in there. I said yes. He said he would look at it from a legal point of view, and if it was a problem, he'd get back to me. He's never gotten back to me. So I assume from that point on, he's an aviation lawyer. He's comfortable with it. So I see no reason why we should not approve this because it's a safety issue.
Stu, is your answer to my question that the owners of Flying Four Ranch asked you to go back and revisit this issue?
Yes.
That's my question. So you're bringing it back to our community at the behest of Flying Four Ranch. Is that a fair statement?
It's a fair statement. I told them before that you guys had turned it down. Said you weren't going to audition.
This is the Stu Morris appeal process. So the board already voted on the 7-0 not to implement it, not to recognize this as an airport. Have you ever thought about why they need our recognition? If one of our flight patterns is extended for weather and one of theirs is, and two planes collide, they're going to go, Spruce Creek said they acknowledge us. We've got a document that says they can't sue it. Did you ever think that there's a reason they want us to do this? Did you put the POA hat on, or did you have the flying?
I know exactly the reason they want to do it.
Okay.
Because they want Florida DOT recognition. That's why they want to do it.
Without that recognition, they might not allow it. Is that correct, Stu?
That's correct.
What's it? The airport will be allowed. It's the charting that's the question, isn't it, Stu?
It's already charted.
So what's the DOT
FAA
recognition
totally
mean
different.
to them?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Stu. What does the DOT recognition? What's the impact of that on them?
It's a requirement by the Florida DOT. If you're within 3 miles of another airport, you got to notify them in writing and get an acknowledgement.
Right, I understand that, but if they don't get it, they don't get that DOT blessing on our approval. What is the impact of that on them? What does that?
I can only go by what the woman from the DOT, when I talked to her about it, said.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what happens if it isn't approved? He says he can come back and he can try to, legally get it approved. Just a letter. It's not, it's not a whole binding document. That's what she told me, and I can't go beyond that. That's all she told me.
Well, as far as I know, none of us have we seen the proposed revision, or what are we discussing today? Just to be aware of it, or?
I think
just to be aware of it. Yes, we had it. The old MOU had saying he'll fly at 500 feet. He'll stay. He'll be making patterns into landing to the south all the time. We took all that out of it. Okay. All we're doing is saying we acknowledge you're there. The responsibility says here, all aircraft operating in the vicinity of both airports to maintain visual separation. You have the MOU in front of you, I assume.
I don't. Does anybody?
No, but
I never received a copy of it.
What's troubling to me is that the president had spoken on behalf of the POA at the meeting where this was voted on in detail about the dangers and risks of having something 2.8 miles from Spruce Creek's runway. And we all agreed that it was not a safe thing, that we would condone in any manner, that we were staying away from it legally, verbally, and otherwise. Now, our own AAC, on behalf of Flying Four Ranch, comes back to us and dials it down and says, look, let's just help these folks out because, they need it. Well, why do you think they need it, Stu? They need it because DOT is not going to let them do it unless we consent. And if we consent, that means that God forbid there's an accident, some lawyer somehow is gonna find a way to blame POA Spruce Creek for allowing our pilots and their pilots to get together within this 2.8 mile. Otherwise, they wouldn't want our consent. And that's my fear. My
John,
fear is
I'm
we're going
sorry,
back.
Can I ask you a question, Jack?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Okay. You approved an MOU that's a lot closer to Advent Health.
Yes,
How do you
dude.
justify that? Under your argument, how do you justify that?
We discussed that at length as a board. We discussed the emergency helicopter use with total restrictions that went back and forth with the help of Scott Seagrave and Jim Clark. Because that helicopter may save your life someday, Stu, or no resident's life. So it was a balancing act between, do we want emergency services close by? Could they benefit Spruce Creek in any way? And if they have to transition, I think is the right word, they have to follow the guidelines that are posted and restricted around our boundary. So yeah, there were
You can't
definitely.
They would
compare,
try to. They don't have to. They would try to. They
you
would
can't-
try to honor those restrictions.
you can't compare a memorandum of understanding with an emergency services helipad at a hospital with a private airport. That's a-
John, as the AAC liaison, do you have anything that you can help with this or any input?
No, I don't have any more than what we're discussing right now. What they did on the MOU is they, correct me if I'm wrong, Stu, but I'm looking at it. You corrected the wording in it and put in the word that we just acknowledge the existence. I'm not a lawyer, so between Scott and Jack, by saying that we acknowledge the existence, not that we accept it, but we acknowledge it, does that automatically give our approval, Jack? Does that put us in a legal?
Well, without looking at the whole document, I don't think Jack's gonna opine on that. I wouldn't think. I mean, it's, you know,
Okay.
it's what's within the four corners.
Have you seen it, Scott?
I've not seen,
Okay.
no, that's
It's
why I
the
was
thing that
asking.
we voted on. You just changed the wording in the last paragraph under the purpose of this thing.
Look, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this, Mr. President. I'm appalled that our AAC goes to bat for an entity that doesn't benefit the POA members. And this type of thinking is troublesome to me. We are here to serve the POA and all its members, all its residents. We're not here to help a buddy down the hall or down the street who's got a helicopter or we're helicopter. This is ridiculous. We should be only servicing the rights and protecting the interests of our community. And in my opinion, this does not do that. And we already voted on this in the past, and my position would be the same.
All right. I kind of go with Jay's comments on
Can I?
for the POA, and I'm not finding anything that it does to benefit. It doesn't benefit any safety, in my opinion.
Could I just speak again? We ran it through the whole AAC. The whole AAC voted 7-0 to send it up to you guys again,
Okay.
as is written right now. And it is a safety issue. If we don't tell pilots about aircraft operating within the Class C, because we're even restricted because of the altitudes, we would be liable. They've been contacting us a lot. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'll be first to admit it, but I would think there would be a liability if there was, God forbid, a midair. And we did tell our pilots about the existence of the airport down there.
Do we have to
And they
sign
have been
that
in contact
MOU
with
to
us.
acknowledge that?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know,
My question, Scott.
I mean, actually, Jim Stone just sent an email out today as the airport manager saying, hey, be careful because the drone operations going on at, I don't even know what airport that was he was talking about.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about it other than the email I saw from Jim, but we can communicate things to our own members short of doing something like that. And you know,
Good point, Scott.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Friend has a website with lists of all of the pilots at Spruce Creek. He can send out a bulletin saying, hey guys, be aware that this is operating down there, 2.8 miles from our runway threshold. Be aware of it.
Well, this is Stu again, and we have a safety meeting Thursday. And the whole part of the safety meeting is on this specific topic about 3FA7. So should I drop that if you're not going to approve it?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, I mean, yeah, we voted 7-0 to reject it before, but if it's modified, if something's changed, it's all hypothetical until anybody has seen it, reviewed it, vetted it, and made a case, in my
Stu,
opinion.
Stu, it's on the chart. You can talk about anything you want to. I mean, and that's smart to do. Talk about this airfield. It's on the chart there. And talking about it is a good thing. But the question is, do we need an MOU to do that? What is the benefit to us for having an MOU with those guys?
And how does that make us
The
safe?
only, yeah, the only argument I can put up is it's a safety issue.
So we discuss it at the safety meeting.
Okay,
Well,
I
again,
mean, I plan on doing that, huh?
No, I was just going to say, if it's a safety issue, it's a safety issue. And as we had a long conversation at the beginning of this meeting, we'll always, as a board, consider things that we think are going to make the community more safe. But it's not just kind of a, and I don't mean this to sound like it's going to sound, so I apologize in advance, but it's not a get out of jail free card. Why is it a safety issue? Why does it versus the alternatives make it a safer community for us and for others? And that being the case, then it's a different situation. But right now, it's just very vague to me anyway.
Well, I was told to make it vague, so that's why I did that.
Well, then you've done a fine job, Stu.
Hey, Stu, you did
Okay,
what the AAC asked for, and I appreciate it as a board
Thanks.
member, doing it and bringing it up. And I'm glad we got to discuss it again. So
But do I speak for, I mean,
Okay.
does anybody have a problem with the statement that we would consider anything, that makes it safer? We just need to know why this would do it. And that's really what the crux of the question is.
Yeah,
I think the crux of the question is that they're asking us for an acknowledgement of their existence. However, Stu changes the wording on behalf of the owners. The idea is the same. Florida DOT will not sanction them unless we agree and acknowledge of their existence. And if we don't, then we'll never have any legal exposure on that issue. We'll always,
Well, but I understand that, but I'm giving Stu the benefit of the doubt and just saying, if the AAC and Stu believe it's a safety issue for our benefit, we just need a good way to communicate that and understand that.
yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Scott. We can have all kinds of safety meetings, issues, bulletins, web announcements about it without signing an MOU that sanctions them before Florida.
That's not what I said. Stu, if I'm putting words in your mouth, tell me to shut up, but Stu felt
right.
that on behalf of the AAC, this MOU could be a safety issue to improve the safety here at the creek. That being the case, we just need a better understanding of why that would be the case.
Yeah. What does it do for us?
Yeah, so it's on the agenda. We're going to vote on it?
Well,
We
I
don't
haven't
have anything
seen
to
it
vote
yet.
on.
I mean, the
Nothing to
document
vote.
hasn't been distributed.
All right. So I guess we will not vote on it. So we'll put that under old business next month.
Okay.
So it's tabled.
Well, I think by necessity, it has to be.
Yeah, it'll have to be re-agenda.
Yep, table it till next month. Okay. Now, unfinished business. We have the brilliant Jim Stewart and with his sidekick Walt to give us insight into big money items. We're ready for your update, Jim.
You're
Can't hear you,
muted.
Jim.
Are you muted? We don't hear you.
yeah,
We can't hear you, Jim.
can't hear.
Don't hear you yet.
He's working.
He's working on it.
You don't have him muted at your end, do you, Maurice?
No, I don't.
Maurice, can you send him a text or a message that,
Yeah, he knows. He's trying to figure it out.
Wow.
I don't know. Walt just helped me put 120 rivets in my airplane. I'm not sure I trust those rivets now.
Well, that's why he said that's why he can't hear you.
That's right.
Now he's
Here when he was in Washington, couldn't we?
Oh my. No, we don't have you. Oh goodness. Well,
You want to just go ahead and move on to?
let's move on, and then you guys work on that and shout at us if you have to reload. Then reload and shout back at us, and we'll try again. Okay. All right. Under new business, since one of that is a storm drain system repair needed, we'll wait till they get back on, unless you want to take that, Maurice. And I don't know.
Let's just wait for Jim. He's
We'll wait for- okay.
Information on that.
We can
And
go.
now we're at Alan on review and approve the 2022 proposed budget. Alan, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Maurice sent out a cover note that I put together, plus an exhibit. And as it's indicated there, our net operating expense is going to be about $145,000 more than it was last year. And in my cover note, I covered the basic items to account for that. In security, of course, the big ticket item is the increase in our starting salary and all the related payroll and benefit tax coverage. It's going to be a little over $100,000. And then the insurance premium control software. The question? Oh, I thought I heard something. These other items add up another 21.7. So that's essentially the total increase in the security budget. Administration budget's up 22.4, and those three items are just slightly more than that, 22.7. Airport is up $6,900. It's among about a half a dozen accounts, all of about 2,000 or less. And community relations is up $5,100, but we've got a $5,100 offset in income through the sale of advertising that'll be made. Hopefully it'll come up to that. When you total all that up, we had to limit the amount of money then we were going to put in reserve by about $47,000 to come up with an increase in the assessment of $50 from $1,550 to $1,600. Yeah, I don't know what else you'd like to know other than that. I think those are certainly the key points. If you have some specific questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Well, Jay, you're the liaison on the Treasury on that
Yeah,
side.
the process is a good process that we have that Alan runs. We look at last year's budget, we query everybody that's involved. This scratches the big needs for security and all the projects that we've got seen. So yeah, I think I saw the process. I think the process is well done and will get us a good budget, the increases, it's been a tough year. Anything we do that buys any supplies is going up in cost. So, that's kind of the environment we're in. And as Alan said, security, is a challenge with the way that the workforce is going. So I'm totally comfortable with the way it came together.
Thank you. Any other board members have any comments or questions at this time on the budget for Alan or Jay?
I would just ask Alan, thank you for your time and cooperation in doing this with management. Does this budget include Jim's estimates for the underwater, drain runoff projects that we've been discussing for 2022, 2023?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood or heard all of that, Jack. Are you talking about some reserve items rather than operating?
Both. Did you factor into operating anticipated costs of Jim's, what he knows is coming versus some reserves for what we anticipate?
We
coming?
did include a reserve level about the same as we did last year.
Yeah. We didn't include, I mean, for years now, Jack, we've included about $100,000 in drainage in operating just to handle emergency situations. And this year, through 8 months, we've spent about 116, so we're a little over budget for the year. And we have allowed or earmarked about $1.5 million, I think, for drainage over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. And now we're starting to earmark more money for the taxiways so that we can certainly wrap up from a fiscal standpoint. We can handle the entire drainage project. Whether we can get somebody to do it or not is another issue that I'm sure Jim will address.
Understood.
On the taxiways, we're probably going to have to take it at least a couple of bites in order not to get our reserves too low.
Understood. Thank you, Al.
Okay. I guess during our, I might add, during our discussion, we sort of thought of limiting the assessment to a $50 increase. We didn't know whether the board would have the appetite to go more and put the same amount of money in reserve as we had last year. It would probably require an extra $30 on top of the 50. Not a big amount, but I think I'm comfortable with the 50. I'm pretty sure we're okay with that.
Yeah, I think this coming year is going to be, a make or break it for what the assessment is, because as the inflation starts up and we find other needs, but we're comfortable with the $50 increase this year.
And Alan, as I look at it, the difference in reserves is about 47K less, but that's still over $1 million, like you said in your note,
Yes.
going into reserves.
Yes. Most of which we've earmarked for the taxiway project.
Right. Because I remember the drainage numbers were coming in better than we had perhaps feared and somewhat planned for.
Yeah. Yes.
So Jay, would you like to make a motion to approve this?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the budget as Alan presented to you all.
All
I'll
right.
second it.
And seconded by Joe, I think. Yeah. And all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Alan.
I would like to acknowledge the great support of Maurice and Marilyn, our accountants. I mean, those two folks did the yeoman's work on this thing, and I just kind of put it all together, but they deserve a lot of credit.
Thank you so much for all the work. And thinking about all the work done by volunteers, let's go back to Jim Stewart now.
Oh,
And I
no.
don't have him. Can anybody hear Jim?
Jim, there is a call-in number that you can phone in for the audio.
Here, I'll email it to you, Jim. Hang on a second.
I got it here too.
Jim, so in the meantime, do we want to keep moving forward?
Yes, let's do. Now, okay, I was ready to go back to him. Now let me find where I'm at on
Appointment to the ARC.
appointment to the Architectural Review Committee.
I want to take off.
We've been asked to approve Peter Scala to the Architectural Review Committee. Does anyone have any comments on that appointment?
Yeah, I'm also the rep to the ARC. They had some changes. He is eminently qualified for many years of working projects. So He's been to the Arc, he's seen what it does, and he still wants to be part of it. So I would support his membership completely.
I can say, given that the ARC has a need and they've apparently already vetted and blessed him, I know him and his demeanor is good, his knowledge is good. I have no problem supporting him in that position whatsoever.
Excellent. Thank you for that input. Anyone else? Entertain a motion for his approval.
Jay, that'd be you again, buddy.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the membership.
I'll second that one.
Okay, it's got seconded, and
Or
all
John.
in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, that's done. Now we have on discussion, reactivating the Legal and Bylaws Committee Board. That's, no, we reactivating the Legal and Bylaws Committee. Discussion is among us, so.
I can address that, Mr. President. I was the former liaison to the Legal and Bylaws Committee during the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years. And the committee was never disassembled or abolished by any reason. I think that the members resigned due to various personal issues, and it is currently without membership. And so, just so the record is clear, it still exists. It was approved by the board as a committee, as a valuable committee, and I think it should continue to exist. And so, I would support reactivating it for qualified people to serve on such a committee.
I'll take the opposite side of it for a second. I'm sitting here shaking my head thinking about that in light of the conversation we had for the first half hour or 45 minutes of this meeting. And to me, I think those two things run completely contradictory to each other. I don't know. I have a hard time visualizing. I've been here for years when the Legal and Bylaw Committee existed. Have seen it used in various functions here and again. Not sure how it's going to bring value when essentially before we act on anything, we're going to need to vet it against the documents and we're going to need to vet it against the law. And granted, they could take a first stab at it, but then we're going to pay the lawyers to review what they did instead of doing it in the first place correctly anyway. I think in some things I could see where it makes sense. The point was made before by Stu reviewing that MOU with Shane. In the case of federal law, in the case of aviation law, he's more qualified than most, if not, whatever. So I think in some areas like that, but I think the way I had Maurice send me the charter so I could review it. And, I think we'd need to address some issues on that and then obviously have some candidates brought forward to staff it in order to be able to give it a full consideration. I know we have one resident letter volunteering for it should the board choose. And again, that wouldn't be sufficient enough to give them any bite within the governing documents. But again, I have an uncomfortableness with and it's really more an understanding. I just haven't had the conversations to understand how it's going to be of a benefit and how it's not going to be a little bit counterproductive.
So I was the liaison to that committee, Scott, as you know, for approximately 4 or 5 years.
Actually, I didn't know.
And I can tell you that when the committee was fully operational, what was presented to the committee, Mr. President, were things like, we need to look at the enforcement power of the board to protect the POA. Go look at all the declarations, CNRs, and give us a memo. And Shane McLaughlin would go and do that and go through our documents, formulate a memo, saving, in my opinion, hundreds of hours of legal research that an outside counsel that Scott suggested do that. I thought that was invaluable to the president at the time, Paul Brevard, and to the board. And so we are an HOA, and we have a lot of regs, as Scott well knows, and a lot of evolving things. Having resolutions categorized and at their disposal so they could pull it up for anybody, Scott. It could be a board member or an officer.
Well, and Jack, to make my point clear, I'm really if it's a research position or function, that's one thing. If it's an analytical position and any kind of conclusions or whatever, I think that's where it gets more troublesome to me.
Yeah,
I know when the whole flight school issue was going down, there was a lot of, what's this document say? What's that document say? I know I spent a lot of time in it. I know you did, and I know a lot of others have as well. To be able not to have to do that, to pull all those documents out and the pertinent pieces for different issues, I think there's a lot of value potentially in that. But I just feel, and I don't know, I might just be jumping to a conclusion that this was maybe a little bit more than that.
Well, the committee exists. It was approved by the board. It still exists. I think is the application to appoint people to this committee, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, or just reactivating the committee?
Well, it was to discuss reactivating it. So that's, as you said, kind of moot. It was never deactivated as far
Yeah,
as.
if it's never deactivated, we don't have to do anything.
Right.
So I guess
And it would be a matter of, it would be a matter of having the same process we do that we just did for the ARC, having candidates, resumes, people vet, we make votes, and that's all fine. But I would just like to offer that I think that charter should be reviewed for current applicability, given where we are now versus whenever that was written, because I don't know when that was.
Well, I guess if you want to make a motion to change the charter, we could do that at a future date. But right now, the charter is what it is.
Well, I know the charter is what it is, and I'm not saying I'm ready to change it right now. I'm just saying we need to take a look at that, in my opinion.
Well, the business item was to discuss reactivating the committee. And I'm hearing that the committee never was deactivated.
Just lacks membership.
There's been no one appointed to it.
Scott's correct. There would have to be nominees and we'd have to approve them.
Yeah, just the same as we do for any committee, really. No question.
So
we discussed it.
Well, yeah, we discussed it. Is there a desire of the board to take any action?
I don't know what action we could take at this point.
Well, Jack, do you have any name of someone you'd like to make the chairman of it, or to get it going again?
Well,
I thought Maurice had let us know that he had received interest from both Shane McLaughlin and Mel Stanley, and I don't think anybody in the world would not want Shane McLaughlin as a tool. But I don't see resumes in official anything. I think Scott's right. It would have to be an official nomination, and then the board would vote on it.
Does Scott want to do it?
I don't think
You want the
Scott-
honest answer or the politically correct answer?
No. Scott,
Or we'll define it, Jay. What do you
I
mean by
meant
it?
Shane. I meant Shane. Does Shane want to do it?
Oh, yeah.
He hasn't officially notified me yet, but I was informed that he would, that he was interested via another owner.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could, quibble with Shane running it, starting it up again.
I mean, that's an asset for everybody. Why don't we, Maurice, why don't you reach out and ask for formal applications and see what you get, and we could address it at the next board meeting.
Yeah, because we need at least 3. So yeah, maybe if we go soliciting generally or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, there is a email that came from Mel Stanley.
Yeah, but we need 3.
Right, we need, it's 3 to 5 that the charter calls for. And if you presume Mel and his approval, if you presume Shane and his approval, which again is all speculative, that still would leave you 1 short at a minimum.
Do we let lawyers come into the community? I mean, I guess I'm not sure that. Sorry.
Question is whether we ever let them leave.
There's so much work.
Well, I think, yeah, both Mel and Shane, yeah, it did take somebody with some wheelbase to stand up with those at that level. So that would be certainly desirable from my opinion. But,
This will end here shortly.
so.
Hey, Jim, can you guys hear us now?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, buddy.
Yay!
All right.
Yay! We got it. We got it.
We are now going to step back
Comments for about 10 minutes.
and get Jim Stewart's comment.
Okay. So we're going to start with the storm pipe rehabilitation. So we were underwhelmed with bids back. We did not get any contractor to bid for the whole thing. American Inline, which we use on a regular basis to do 2 pieces of rehabilitation, either epoxy lining the pipes or chemical pressure grout insertion. This company has been doing this repairs on an ongoing basis. They bid for all of that type of work. And there are approximately 39 runs that need epoxy lining, and there's approximately 14 runs that need the grout, injection. So their bid for all of that work was $580,000. So that's the only piece we have there. The work that involves dig and replace or excavating work, no one bid for that. We have an excavator that has done smaller jobs for us around the community, Savage Construction. We asked them to bid particularly the vaults along Lima installation. And at the time, they didn't have equipment that could lift those vaults in place. They now have that equipment. So we're going to ask them to bid on that piece of work, so at least we know where we stand. So what I don't have is more than one bid to compare prices on. And I think this is just the sign of the times that this kind of work is in heavy demand, particularly as you guys, we all go flying and we see all of the new neighborhoods going in this region in Florida. And they're all looking to use these types of contractors. So and we have our Public Works meeting tomorrow, and we were going to discuss strategy. I was going to propose, now this hasn't been vetted by our committee yet, that we try to see where American Inline stands. They've been doing a lot of work for us, and try to do some price comparison. And the whole goal of this to bundle the work was to try to get a discount with a large piece of work that the contractor would do piece by piece by piece by piece, end to end. So I think the quote we have from American Inline, I think, is where we thought it was going to be as per Bruce Moya's input for that kind of work. In just casual discussions with their main guy, a guy named Walt Cush, he did give us a heads up that the product that they line with, which is basically an epoxy infused sleeve, has gone up substantially in price because I think it has a heavy petroleum content to the stuff that goes into it. So we have had discussions with Bruce Moya what options. He suggested we could go out and rebid. We really don't think that would change the outcome on this. I am worried about a little bit about time elements, that if these material costs continue to go up. And keep in mind, we wanted to turn the piping work on in first quarter when it's traditionally a lot drier here. So I think we're going to pursue to try to legitimize American Inline to make sure it's a fair deal based on other work that they've done for us in the past. Do some price comparison.
Jim, when Bruce was the one working with you on developing the plan, correct?
I'm sorry, developing the what?
The plan, the initial plan, and
Yes,
the scope and
yes.
phases and all that.
Yep.
Was there some ballpark figures that were thrown out by him then, or has he reviewed this? I mean, has he given you an opinion as to the bid you did get?
Yeah, I think the bid we got actually was pretty close to what he thought it was going to be. In fact, where we started the storm pipe rehabilitation, I think we're significant below. I can't speak for the excavation work, but I can't believe it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I still think we're going to come in, I think worst case in the 750, 800 range to do all the rehabilitation work.
But presumably this project's getting more expensive every month.
Well, that's why to me, there's some urgency to see if American Inline's bid, we think, is a fair bid based on our previous experience with them. And we do like working with them. They're a solid organization. They meet their time commitments. They seem to place us at the top of the queue. So from that relationship with that supplier, we're comfortable with that. We just want to make sure we're getting a fair deal financially. So the other thing that Bruce Moya was pushing, well, we might be nice to get one contractor, and he wanted to know if we got one contractor, would American Inline act as a sub? We feel comfortable enough with American Inline that we could, I mean, with Bruce's engineering help, that we could work our way through that. And as far as the work requiring excavation, I don't think there's that many elements to it that it would, that we have to look for a general contractor to look to for both sides of this work. So that's what we're going to discuss tomorrow at a public work meeting. The other thing I was going to comment on to our Public Works Committee, that if this is the regular schedule for the board meeting, we will switch which Tuesdays are on, so I can bring a complete story to you guys instead of what we're going to do tomorrow morning. Okay, so that's really the knowledge we've acquired since the last board meeting on the bids for the storm pipe. So again, 2 elements. We'll probably look to break out the piece that requires excavation, which we do not have a bid on yet, and try to see if the work that we do have a bid on, which involves the what's called CIPP, cast in place plastic pipe, and the epoxy lining efforts, which both those technologies, they work within the existing pipes to rehabilitate them. They do not involve digging the pipe up from the surface. So any questions on that? We were hoping for more, but I think that's the state of the construction industry in Florida today.
Hearing no questions, we'll talk about the storm drain system repair needed for 2024 King Air Court.
Okay, we can do that. Also, don't forget about the paving. We got to talk about the paving.
I'm sorry.
No, we can finish that up. So this is in King Air Court, where we're having as it goes under King Air Court. It's been repaired long ago, I think before I was here, because you can see the patch in the asphalt, but there's a depression going in there. So we have a bid. That piece needs to be relined. And is there vault repair? Was there vault repair on that? Vault repair on each end. So it's a vault on each side of the road and the piece underneath. So that bid is $7,100. Now, a bit of reality here. This is not on the master list. Okay. And so even though we're going to go after and fix everything the video work told us to fix, this one, the video work did not indicate that there was a problem. So just to give you a heads up on that.
Well, Jim, that raises another obvious question, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And that is, how complete is this? I think the video work needs to be completed, where it told us that there's an issue with the pipe, but yet we haven't seen any sinkholes above that yet. I think we will, in those scenarios, avert sinkholes once we make these repairs, but that does not mean that we're going to be out of the sinkhole business long term. I think we'll have much fewer to deal with. So I think these will still periodically come up.
So does that mean this one was not videoed or hasn't been analyzed, or?
No, it was videoed, and the video didn't show a problem. So
that video is then obviously not a fail safe.
Well, no, and then if you look at where the pavement is collapsing, it's close to the vaults. So, okay, so that bid is $7,180, and our recommendation is we're seeking approval to move forward with that fix.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it, and we'll get that repair taken care of.
Gotta have a vote.
Yeah, let's vote on it.
Oh, yes, all in favor of fixing that.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the paving. We have 2 quotes. One from a company called Asphalt Paving Systems, which are located in Zephyr Hills, Florida. This was a new name to me. The other one is Halifax Paving, which is located, where is their address?
They're in Ormond, I believe.
Then Ormond Beach, yep. Okay, let's talk about Asphalt Paving Systems bid. So we asked them to, we have identified 4 phases, and we basically wanted each phase bid and then a composite. So they provided a phase 1 bid of 324,000, phase 1 and 2, 567,000. So a total for phase 1 and 2 of, what did we get here? 857. They also bid all 4 phases, which is all the work outlined. And their bid for that is 1.541 million, which actually wasn't too far off. Pretty much right on with what MBV had thought this was going to be. At the previous meeting, I had some detail that I shared with you guys on what each phase included, which taxiway was going to get what treatment, and which taxiways were not going to get any treatments. Okay, so asphalt paving systems, 1.541 million. Halifax Paving submitted a similar organizational as far as looking at the individual phases and the whole group. There for all 4 phases was 2.751 million. However, in there is a line item for 1.16 million for underground utilities, which we don't understand what that is. Like, did they also bid the rehabilitation of the pipes? Because they had access to that information. Yeah, yeah. So we're going to go back to Halifax and say, what is that line item? And if that is what we think it is, that would make their bid 1.6 million, which is almost on top of the asphalt paving systems 1.5 million. So at that point, we'd have to look under the covers, I think, a little bit more. So the other thing now, as Alan had mentioned earlier during the budget discussion, as to if the whole piece is in that 1.5 million range, how many bites do we want to take at this? Obviously, if we split it into 2 or 4 pieces, the pieces will probably be slightly more expensive because of new setup charges on the site and those sort of things. Of course, it would spread out over a couple of years. So I think looking at the whole picture, well, again, this is another item. Alan's part of our Public Works Committee that we can discuss tomorrow morning and see what we want to propose for a strategy moving forward. So we are not yet in a position to come back to the board and say, this is the bid we want to take. This is how much it is. So, but we could be there in a couple of weeks. We might be there before the next board meeting. So any questions?
All right, Jim, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And it's good to have you back in the creek.
Yeah, so I'm back, except for, personal trips that might happen till probably the May timeframe. So.
All right. That's my pictures where we were here.
I have 3 people for open forum.
Yep. All right, that's where we're at. We've hit every item on the agenda. Now we're in open forum. So Maurice, we'll let you go and introduce who's coming on.
All right. First, we have Nick Schultz and Bob Wood with Spruce Creek Aviators to talk about that.
All right. Welcome, gentlemen.
It's still connecting.
Oh.
Should be on now.
Welcome, gentlemen. Can you?
I don't think they're connected yet, Jim.
Okay.
Nick's up now. He's on mute.
Bob Wood with Spruce Creek Aviators.
All right. Welcome, gentlemen.
How are you?
You
hear me?
Yes, we do. You have the floor.
All right, Bob Work and I are here. I just want to start off. I'm kind of lost at all the assumptions that were made in the beginning part of this discussion. But on to the point about Spruce Creek Aviators and us not reaching out. We contacted the airport manager originally. We spoke in front of the AAC to gain the support and get guidance. Since then, we got a cease and desist letter. We've invited local leadership within our community to join us for a cocktail party to kind of explain what we're trying to do and what our goals are. And we invited you all as well to be a part of a safety culture initiative that we're trying to push here. That said, I sent a letter on the 8th referencing the cease and desist letter, and it very clearly states that Spruce Creek members are allowed to be here. And it goes in to say when it's a non-Spruce Creek resident or member, that's following the rules of our governing documents. And if you look at that, it's very clear what we're trying to do. Our ops manual, I provided some information in the past regarding our ops manual and that how operations will be conducted out of here. So back to my letter, nothing we're doing is in violation of our CNRs, and the cease and desist letter is accusing us of something we're not doing. But again, we're asking the board to work with us so we can make sure our goals are aligned with the challenges that we here at Spruce Creek are facing. And I hope that that relationship builds and we can foster a positive outcome. Personally, I think saying a lawyer, I don't think what we're trying to do justifies the expense to our community, because we're trying to work with you and make sure that everything that we do conforms to the guidance in our governing documents. So with that, I think for us not to do something regarding our safety record here at Spruce Creek is, a disservice to our community, and that's what we're trying to do. I hear lots of discussion and through different groups about our challenges here, but it stops at discussion. And Spruce Creek Aviators wants to get our membership of the community together to come up with productive and effective ways to promote safety here. And yes, part of safety includes training. As an example, I was talking to a Bonanza owner and I was like, hey man, when was the last time you had spin awareness training? His response was, back in my private training. And I was like, well, if we had a 172 available, is that something you'd be interested in becoming current again? And as a member, he was like, absolutely, I'd love to do that. I'm working with another resident in the community that wants to go buy a Bonanza, but he can't get insured because he doesn't have an instrument rating. So I provide him instrument training so he can get his Bonanza. So what we're doing is, and when you talk about it's a non-for-profit, insurance is really, really expensive when you're providing dual instruction. There's no profit made on the dues. It costs me $6,000 a year to get the insurance on the plane so that we're adequately insured. So a lot of the things I hear, I think, are just assumptions and not based on fact. So I'm just asking the board to please work with us so that we can promote safety here, because you guys are more aware of the challenges here than I am. I just know what I see every day that I go out there and fly off this runway and in this airport. And I think that my background and Bob's background could really be an asset that could be available to the community and add value to what we have here at Spruce Creek. Does anyone have any questions there or concerns regarding the information we provided?
I have a question.
I want to understand how you show in this letter that that your the Flying Fraternity LLC is a not-for-profit.
Says it on our website, as well as a letter that I sent on the 8th to the board, talking explicitly about us being a non-for-profit organization.
So I don't understand this business you're starting. If it's not for profit, what?
Well, I go out there and there's safety challenges, and I'm just trying to do something to get us communicating, so we can come up with initiatives. We talk. I saw Joe Friend's procedure here to get into the creek, and it's kind of hard to find on our website. So we want to work together to make sure that that kind of information gets out to the community at large and encourage them to participate in following those procedures.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but why can't, I mean, you could do that just dealing with the airport manager, right? I mean, you guys volunteer help, that'd be great. We can use all the help we can get.
Yeah, and I'm volunteering to create an organization that's in tandem with the board, that we have access to resources, because the board's not in the business of leasing back aircraft, nor should it be. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So we're just trying to, I want my kids to learn how to fly here one day. And I know that there's several challenges we're trying to overcome. So our effort is to, hey, let's create a leaseback option. So we're not adding aircraft to the fleet, but we're increasing serviceability of them. We're ensuring that they're insured. And then as the community's aging.
Excuse me, Nick, let me just interrupt. When you say add to the fleet, you're talking about your fleet. That has nothing to do with Spruce Creek. You're talking about your fleet of
We don't
aircraft.
have a fleet.
Well, that's what you said. You're going to add to the fleet. You're going to lease back and add to the fleet.
No, the fleet's already here.
Pardon?
The fleet's already here. We're trying to lease back aircraft from current aircraft that are on the field.
Right, but that's not exclusive. You could easily lease back aircraft that are off the field and bring them into.
But I'm telling you, that's what we're not trying to do. We don't want to do that. We don't see.
But could do that.
Yeah, anyone can do that, but I'm not trying to do that. That's not what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is get the board together and say, hey, as we move forward with these initiatives, which ones make sense to go after, which ones do not. But in my opinion,
Right.
my opinion is sitting on our hands and just talking about the safety challenges is not really, it hasn't been successful thus far.
I agree with you that as far as safety goes, but in this letter too that we got, it said, I'm dumbfounded by the negativity of the no training trend. And that's, I'm trying to understand that because we're 1,600 homes in here and we're all individual Part 91 pilots that this is a community with a runway. We're not an airport. We're not a full blown public use airport. We're a community that has a runway.
Uh-huh. I agree.
Okay. So this I'm a little offended by this. I'm dumbfounded by the negativity of no training trend. We have our EA meetings here. We have IMC meetings. We have BMC meetings. We have safety meetings. One coming up. Matter of fact, this Thursday night. Everybody in here, all the pilots in here, have to do their biannual flight reviews, to their physicals, to what their insurance company requires as far as training. I don't understand where you feel that this neighborhood is totally untrained, has no training, and we're a bunch of maverick pilots that need a company to come in and train us.
Those are your words, not mine. But
I'm reading your letter, so go ahead.
So Bob wrote that, and here I don't want to be an argument. It's not meant to insult anyone. We're talking specifically about the challenges that Spruce Creek pilots deal with.
I think what we're talking about specifically, though, is keeping everything exclusively for Spruce Creek residents of Spruce Creek, not outside flight instructors, not outside students, not outside airplanes. This is a private community.
I agree with you and completely agree with you. We're not trying to bring in outsides people. What we want to say is if you want to lease back or become a member and have access to the aircraft that are available, I don't want to limit that Spruce Creek resident any more than the board is doing it. I don't want to be the police officer for the board.
You're putting it to the outside community. Again, this is what the big concern is, the outside community.
Can I ask I'd like to ask you a question, Mr. Schultz.
But he just said, I'm saying something. Where did I say, or where does it say that we're allowing them in? We're saying the member allows them in, not us. I just need them to sign my legal paperwork so they're covered under insurance.
So this is Jack Murray, Secretary of the Board. I just have one question for you.
Yep.
I'm looking at your operating rules, guidelines that you have posted under Flying Fraternity on your website. I assume you are Flying Fraternity. That's you and
Yeah. And our social group of this is Spruce Creek Aviators.
Okay, so you have more than one venture going here. Is that your statement?
No, we're just separating the social group members from the ones that meet standards, because not everyone is going to be allowed to fly the aircraft. Okay. We want to make sure that they meet the standard.
Nick, this is Joe Frank. Can you discuss your intended operations relative to what George McCorman does?
Joe, please, Joe, let me ask my question. I'm looking at your Article 1, the club, and what you have printed up here under your own operating guideline is that the express purpose is to provide members of your flying club with aircraft for their personal use and enjoyment. All members of the flying fraternity shall comply with all federal aviation regulations. Are you telling this board that your intention to restrict members of your flying club or flying school, whatever you want to call it, only to Spruce Creek residents?
It's only meant for Spruce Creek residents to
Okay.
use their enjoyment. And I don't want to limit them any farther than the board or our governing documents limitate them.
Did you understand my question, sir? My question is, are you representing to the board that the only members you will solicit and accept dues from, because you're advertising to the world on your website, not Spruce Creek community members only, will only be Spruce Creek residents and no outside? Is that your representation?
In the letter, it says a member may be an instructor. Say you're going to use our aircraft.
Answer my question.
Can I respond, please, sir?
It's a simple question. You have advertised here for membership outside.
I'm trying to respond to you and you're interrupting me.
Include other than Spruce Creek residents in your membership scheme or not? Yes or no?
Fully.
I'd like to clarify, as in my letter, if you are a member, Jack, if you're a member and you want to get instruction from somebody, that's on, I don't want to limit you from getting somebody that may be more qualified than somebody that's a resident.
I'm a member of your flying club. I'm Don Jones and I live in Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach. And I want to join your membership and I want to do the president's thing at $300 a month, whatever you got here.
No, you could not be that kind of member.
So you're telling us that your members of your club that you propose would only be Spruce Creek members and no one outside the community?
Yes,
Spruce Creek residents.
correct.
The 1,600 residents that we have in this community.
Yes,
Which are so 600 or 500. That's your intention.
yes.
Thank you.
It doesn't say that.
Okay, well, I'm just asking a question. I'm not commenting on anything. I appreciate you answering that question.
Your banner does not say that, Nicholas.
All right, so go to the website. And this is what I wanted to clarify on. It says that primarily Spruce Creek members, because if you are a resident here, you can be a member. If you want to bring in your instructor with you, right? I don't care where your instructor comes from, as long as they meet our standards, they would need to become a member that's sponsored by a Spruce Creek resident. And that's the intention, because I'm not the right instructor for everyone. You may have your instructor from outside. We want to make sure you have access to the skill set that you require to be a safer pilot.
So you just want to lease back airplanes for profit?
It's not for profit, sir. We don't have any.
You don't care whether we use our instructors, so it's not necessarily you providing instruction for safety. We can bring our own instructors who may differ in philosophy than your instructor.
Correct. They just need to meet our standards in the operation of the aircraft.
So you want to run a lease back operation, not a flying club?
No. We want to lease back aircraft and make them available to our residents here in the community and cover the expense. It's not a lease back. It's not even a rental because there's no profit to be made. You're covering the expense of the aircraft.
So you're just doing this pro bono for the goodwill of the Spruce Creek residents?
I want this to be a safer place for everyone here and my kids, and have direct access to training that through the board support can help ensure that we're providing training that caters specifically to the challenges of this unique environment. I have 10-year-old boys that I would love to train here. I have other friends that are my age that have kids, my kids' age, and they want to train. And I couldn't honestly say this is a place that I would want my children to be out there in.
I thought we weren't supposed to train here. I thought that was also part of the
I can
community.
train. Yeah, I live here. It says any resident can be here.
That's what they're confused about.
All right, well, we're just here to listen to your proposal, not necessarily getting a debate. I appreciate you answering my question.
Yeah, so we just want to be a part of the success, and we want to work with the community and the board members to make sure what we're doing is aligned with the community. And where it is not, we want to come up with a way to fix that.
Have you submitted your resume and flight skills and CFI II skills? I didn't see that anywhere in your website.
I did not. I didn't know there was a process to do that.
Well, wouldn't you expect someone to look at your qualifications before they rented a plane from you and got instruction from you?
Yeah, that's on my website.
Okay. But you didn't submit that to AAC or anybody, did you?
No, I was unaware of a process. I asked for an application that, according to the cease and desist letter, and the board chair was unaware that there was such an application required.
But you didn't give anybody your resume, your skill set or qualifications to say.
I was never asked to.
Okay.
Are you asking?
No, I'm just asking if you did that.
I did not know.
So we
But
don't,
if you're asking, I'll provide it for you.
but we don't know anything about you at this stage.
All right, you could just ask and I'll provide all that information.
I'm not asking, just asking if you submitted that. I
All
don't
right.
have anything else. Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else have any questions?
Any other questions from the board?
No.
All right. Hearing none. All right, thank you.
I guess one thing, on my, just to confirm, Maurice, was informed me that the ad that we had to have people come meet us for a social event was pulled in the paper, and I request respectfully that that be allowed to go forward.
Pulled in what paper?
And
The
Spruce Street,
Update magazine,
Update.
they had an ad that I became aware of last week that I contacted the Update magazine about, letting them know about the cease and desist letter. So they pulled it and they're holding it, barring the outcome of this discussion here.
Yeah, I think
But
that,
I'm a little confused based on the timing. That couldn't have anything to do with the social event that's in a couple weeks.
that's one for, the one here in a couple weeks is for the leadership that we found in the community to help understand what we're doing. And that's for invitation only. And the one in November is to get the broader community involved in the social side of this, to see where that demand is and see where we can accommodate the needs of the community.
and that second notification for November only went to Spruce Creek residents. It wasn't anywhere outside of Spruce Creek.
Yeah, it's just the Update magazine for Spruce Creek.
No, that wasn't my question.
Well,
Anyway, Mr. President, my suggestion is that since council's been retained, the council respond to that issue, that Maurice, our manager, should respond to the update issue. That's illegal.
and I just
And
want to
here
know
comes
what's
the
legal
spell and
about
their own
me
legal
inviting
fees.
people over to a party.
All right. Well, this, personally, just in looking at some of the documents, the letter we got dated yesterday, you're attesting that everything is POA members only, Property Owners Association members only.
Yep.
There's nothing on your website about that. And even in your letter you gave us yesterday, it said, all individuals are Spruce Creek residents who currently reside in our community or by invitation only.
Yeah.
So
That's outside.
that's intrinsically saying that they are not Spruce Creek residents who currently
Right.
reside in the community.
That's not for flying.
What's it
The
for?
restriction is on the use of the airport.
What's that for? That invitation to outsiders.
Yeah,
What would that be for if it's not for what's the invitation to outsiders designed to do?
You didn't read the letter I sent on the 8th. I am allowed to invite my friends to go fly with me. I believe that to be a true statement.
sure.
Yeah, so that's what we mean by invitation only. You're my friend, right? I'm saying that the club and what we're doing here is to get the community together to see if this is something that works for them or they agree with. If they don't agree with it, it'll die on its own. You know, I'm just inviting.
Well, it won't die on its own if you bring outside people in.
Well, I'm not bringing out, I'm saying, when I say I want to go fly, I can bring, just like you can bring someone in to fly with your plane. Any Spruce Creek resident that's a member can bring anyone they personally invite in. I'm not saying that, hey, you can just come in off the street and say, hey, like the downwind. That's not what we're saying.
That's what it sounds like from your banner.
Then we can sit down. I didn't read it that way, but if we need, that's why I'm asking the board to sit down and talk. If there's misunderstandings, let's clarify it, because this is the first I'm hearing that you have a challenge with it. So we want to work with you and make sure the verbiage is presented correctly.
Are you stating to us today before this board that you have no outside training going on with non-Spruce Creek residents?
I train my own students that are non-Spruce Creek residents on my own.
Yeah, if he's a Spruce Creek resident and he's flying, he can train in his aircraft.
Yeah, I just asked the question, is he representing to us that he's not doing that?
No, I've been doing that. But Spruce Creek Aviators has nothing to do with my personal stuff. I just go out there every day and I see stuff happening that I want to be a positive change in that.
So
Well, let me see if I can, I'm sorry, Jack. If I understand what you're saying correctly, your members are Spruce Creek members. They would be either the PIC or, I guess even as a student pilot, they're kind of PIC too, but whatever. Either the student pilot or the PIC is a Spruce Creek member. And if they're flying out of this airport or into this airport, their instructor is either someone you provide or an outside instructor, but it's still a Spruce Creek member, just the same as if I did in my plane, bringing in an outside instructor.
100% true.
That's no different. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then these other members you're talking about, and I think one of the confusions for me is the word member is used in a couple different ways, and it's got like 3 or 4 different meanings in here. But when you talk about outside members, you're talking about people whose fannies are in the planes, but not at the controls, not a student. You're talking, I mean, it could be an instructor, would have to be a member if it's an outside instructor for the member student, or it would have to be a person they were inviting in just to fly with them somewhere. Those would be the non-Spruce Creek members of your, whatever we want to call it.
So
am I right though? Is it really those two situations where you have non-Spruce Creek members involved in?
Yes, sir. 100% true. Yes, sir. 100% true.
So again, just to make sure that we're saying this really clear, because I want to make sure I'm very clear.
It's very confusing. It's very confusing, Scott.
So it's one of two things. Spruce Creek members are free to join and bring in their instructors from the outside and all that, whatever.
Spruce Creek resident.
Spruce Creek, well, members, not even.
What do you mean by member, Scott? Let's clarify. Member of the POA?
No, yeah, in the governing documents, John, technically there's a difference between a member and a resident. Because I could be the member, own property, rent it to you. You're a resident, but you don't have rights. I still do as the owner unless I give them to you. So it's a little, I'm lawyering it. Okay. So,
if it simplifies it, at no time will there be an operation in the aircraft that we have leased back where a Spruce Creek POA member will not be in the aircraft.
With operational control, either as an instructor or student.
Yeah, there will always be, there'll always be somebody in the aircraft that is a legal Spruce Creek POA member.
Yeah, but that means that you being a POA member, by your own verbiage, you're trying to tell us there will always be someone like you in the aircraft, but that doesn't preclude you from training someone from the land who wants to take.
That's true, but I do that anyways. I've flown 570 hours out of here last year.
Yeah, and do you do touch and goes here with them or night training here with them?
No, I do one takeoff and one landing here. The only time that does not happen is if I go around for some reason.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
Can I would just want to ask one more thing. I guess the letter just got to me a little bit, but it says that you're also an advocate of pursuing professional airport management. What do you mean? You're going to hire? You're going to hire?
That was Bob. Do you want to speak to that? Yeah. Here, let Bob speak to that.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, not Bob Wood, Bob Work. W-O-R-K.
I know. I said work.
Okay. And no, that's for the board to decide.
Well, no, it's in your letter here that you are talking about professional airport management.
That's right.
What I'm trying to find out, what do you mean by that? You mean you hire?
Did you read the rest of the paragraph?
Yeah, I read the rest of the paragraph.
But it doesn't sound like you read the flight training paragraph much.
What?
There's a big problem with flight training in Spruce Creek.
Okay, listen.
Okay.
Okay.
And now I want to first answer that question. All right. The advocate of professional airport manager, I am.
but not if you guys disagree. They would be hired and paid by us, the members that live here. And I think the rest of that paragraph is explanatory. They would support all these programs that we're talking about for safety and accident and incident prevention, as well as standardization with flight training. That's all we're saying. As far as the Spruce Creek Aviators go, that's a social organization that we're trying to begin. There are no members of Spruce Creek Aviators yet. There's a lot of people that are going to show up on the 21st that might want to participate. I hope they do. There's a lot of expertise in this neighborhood. If we can do anything at all as aviators, it will be to prevent the next accident or incident. And I'm talking about all airports, not just Spruce Creek. So that's the intent of that. As far as the training goes, and you guys are asking, well, why am I dumbfounded? I'm dumbfounded by who can do it. Why can this person do it? Why can't this person do it? Is somebody coming from outside the community? I get that. But here's what I don't get. I don't get how, when I moved here 5 years ago, I didn't have an organization like we're trying to invent, which is Spruce Creek Aviators. If I could have went to one meeting and they said, hey, look at this. Here's the ops procedures. Come here, let me show you what we do. Here's the do's and don'ts. And by the way, if you watch this short video or go to this link, you can understand everything whatsoever and then sign off on it. I would have loved to have had that. That's all we're trying to do here, guys. We're not trying to step on anybody's toes or do any outside training. You can go to Amarillo for that. You can go to one of the 100 flight schools around. That's all we're trying to do. And Nick's a hard worker, and I think you guys need to support him.
So you're basically here to rescue Spruce Creek from its
Negative.
current operating policy.
Negative. That's not what I said.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Yeah, I just have one thing real quick, because what you just talked about. You're an advocate of pursuing professional airport management. You mean hiring an airport manager in addition to the manager required in our CM?
Yes. Yes.
So you want 2 airport managers?
No, just one.
You want to
If we need to go with the staff down the road, yeah, but I think it's self-explanatory. I'm an advocate of doing that. I'd like you guys to consider that. If you guys talk about it and pursue that and want to talk about it more with me or someone else, and then you decide, well, we don't need that, that's fine. I understand that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening.
Any other questions?
Negative.
Yeah, okay.
My only final comment, leaving you guys, I'd like to get the ad in there so we can get some people to show up and get people rallied around being safer here. I encourage your support or any guidance that you guys can provide. I'd like the door to be open more than it is now. And, I welcome your feedback so we can ensure that what we're doing is in tandem with what the board seeks and what's best for the community.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other open forum, Maurice?
Yes, we've got 2 more.
Okay.
The next is Maureen Letta. Just a second. She's connecting right now.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, this is much nicer than holding 2 phones together to try to get it. when
I'm
you can get
here.
People to zoom in like
Hello,
this.
Maureen. Welcome to the meeting.
Hi. Yeah, I'm ready. You're going to put me on Zoom here?
You're on Zoom, you're live.
You're live.
I mean, I don't see myself. I'm just going to put it on mute here, right?
Well,
You're on the phone to us, so yeah.
Oh, Great.
You're
can see
on
me?
live. The whole board's here. This is Maurice.
Yeah. We can
Hey,
all-
you can see me. Okay, I just can't see myself.
well, we
Great.
can't-
I'm gonna put the phone down and talk. Can you hear me okay?
One or the other, Maurice.
Great. Well, happy Columbus Day. I just wanted to wish you all,
Hello?
No, she's got it.
Maurice, you gotta do phone or computer, not both.
You're on live. The whole board's here. You need to turn down your
My cell
YouTube
hey, you can
and talk on your phone.
We lost her.
Is she there? All right, we'll move to, we'll see if she comes back in. Alan Witkin next.
Okay.
And Alan's connecting up now.
And this is much nicer than holding two phones together
Hello?
to try to get people assuming that. Welcome to the meeting.
Hi.
Wow.
I'm ready. You gonna put me
Yes.
You gotta make sure people know to mute that YouTube before they jump
Yeah.
on.
YouTube has a delay.
That's
Yeah.
Alan,
Alan's here.
Okay,
can you turn down your YouTube volume?
Well, I'm not near the YouTube.
okay. All right, then we should be fine.
Go ahead, you're live in open forum.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. First thing I'd like to do is thank you for your service. But I would like to urge you to reconsider going back to a live meeting at the POA hangar. It's been quite a while and we get much more participation during the live meetings.
Okay. We thank you for that input, and I think people are looking forward to that. And as this has drug on and on and on, and more recommendations were, they're still requiring masks on airplanes and everything else, but we're going to try to get back to public meetings as soon as advisable.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Alan.
That's it. Maureen Letta, she hasn't called back in yet.
Okay.
I have no idea what she wanted to comment about.
Yeah, we might do that in the future just so that we could, if we lose somebody, we can at least address possibly a response if they could share their question up front. But all right, well, thank you, gentlemen. This has been a 2-hour meeting. And I appreciate everyone's participation. Let's all pray that Mike has an uneventful trip back to the creek, and I'm sure we'll be hearing about his adventure. That being said, is there any comment by any board member that they want to get in at this time?
I'd like to comment that I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I
I'll
would
second.
second to that motion.
I second.
I think, okay, all in favor?
Oops. She just checked back in. I don't know if you want to wait
premature.
or.
Sure, no.
Okay, no, okay.
All
Try it again.
And then we'll adjourn.
Yeah, it's been moved in second, so we'll be able to bug out after the call.
She's joining right now.
Okay,
She is just
Yeah, I'm
on the
here.
phone, right? Yeah.
You're just on the phone, Maureen.
I'm here.
okay,
Okay. Please turn on your
I hope
YouTube
you
in
go
the
back
back.
live. Can you
okay,
hear me okay?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, great. I want to thank everybody for their service. I don't know if you do Robert's Rules of Order there, but maybe you do. I don't know if I can ask questions. In the first issue, I want to say that I am a resident of Spruce Creek in a non-pilot household, and I approve of Jim Clark's motion to send that money to the lawyer. Hope you can hear me. In the second issue, I wanted to say I don't even know where the Flying Fork Ranch is, but I agree with Jack Murray. And I think it's important that you let all the pilots know about what's going on for the safety issue. I appreciate Stu Morse, but I think that needs to be sent out to all the pilots about that. The third issue you talked about was the budget I noticed there was no discussion about that, as there is at the county council, as there is in Port Orange, as there is in Spruce Creek when I go online. There's no discussion about that, and I don't know if I can ask questions, but it's late, so I won't ask my question. And fourth, I am glad that the activity is going to start again with the Legal and Bylaw Committee, and I want to thank Jim Stewart putting all that work in for the Public Works. That's all I have to say. Good night. Bye.
Thank you so much. And I would certainly, support, the Jim Stewart comment was right on the nose.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, gentlemen.